In the Zone, presented by TD.
It's In the Zone, presented by TD. Ben Ennis and Mike Wilner back in the TD comfort zone with the roof closed for now, as we're here for the third and final game of the Blue Jays and Orioles series. And I wonder if they're just afraid to even open the roof at this point after Game 2 is almost stopped due to rain.
It would have been nuts, and it was very close to being rain delay, and if the roof had stayed stuck, a rain out in a dome, which was ridiculous, but they did make it was an official game at least, and it would have been far less embarrassing if it had been banged after 5 innings, but I wonder too. I mean, I've seen it happen a couple of times. It's gotten stuck more than once this year, but last night was just the absolute wrong time. If it's a nice night, they should still open it, and I'm sure they will. And it's not going to be a Big O situation where for years they couldn't open the roof because they just couldn't.
Yeah, that's bad. We want to be able to open the roof, and it looks like they are going to open it for the third and final game of this Orioles series. All right, Sportsnet's got a lot of Major League playoff games. Sportsnet 590 The Fan as well. Your place, your nonstop shopping mart for Major League playoff games? Sure. The Orioles might be there. I mean, right now, well on pace. They're tied for first in the American League East. Let's talk about how it's possible that this is occurring with a minus run differential. I don't see how the starting pitching is held up. I don't really see how the offense is held up either when you got Lou Ford DHing and batting 8th occasionally. But, Mike, they're doing it. We're not in June. We're not July. It's not August anymore. It's September.
It's September, and it's the first week of September, and they're in first place. And you know, they did it in 1989, too. And in 88, they, I think, lost their first 22, 23 games of the season, fired the manager, Cal Ripken Sr., and they were just terrible that year. And then in 1989, they got up and they surprised everybody. And I think it was this time when the Blue Jays finally put them away and went on to win the division. But that was a much better Baltimore team than this is. I don't understand it for the life of me. Nobody does. It's impossible. The only people who understand what the Baltimore Orioles are doing are the people who built who are the myth makers, and they talk about the fairy tale aspect of sports and how you can kind of grind out and all that stuff.
110%?
Yeah, that sort of thing. And it's just everybody plays with 110%.
No, nobody does.
Well, all right, relatively. You're correct. No one can play at more than 100%. But they've won one-run games, and they're 58, 59-0, 60-0 now when leading after 7 innings, which is just stupid. It's not supposed to happen. And they've been outscored by 19 runs over the course of the season, which it makes no sense. But they have improved a little bit as the season's gone on. They've improved their personnel a little bit, and they've made some moves. No big moves or anything to stay in a race, but they're a better team than they were in April. And all they have to do now is keep fooling people for a month, and it could happen.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. The big news for the Blue Jays, as we are here before Game 3 of this Orioles series, John Farrell announcing that Ricky Romero's going to be pushed back to start. I guess part of this is he doesn't want to start him at Fenway Park, the way things are going right now for Ricky. He's had, I recall, maybe his last start at Fenway Park against John Lester was he was head-to-head against Lester, or they won that game against John Lester. But Ricky Romero had a brutal start at Fenway Park, if I recall correctly. But anyways, they don't want him to start against the Red Sox at all, which, I don't know, maybe that's backward thinking, because right now the Red Sox aren't exactly the Red Sox. But he's been pushed back. He's going to start against the Mariners, I believe, his next start. At least, I mean, this is the first time they've actually done something to, I don't know, either give Ricky a breather or just to have him miss a start. It's interesting that this is the time they decide to do it.
I guess. I mean, after that last start, right, it was just so bad that at least he didn't walk anybody. He had the one walk, but 7 straight runners reached to lead off the top of the second inning, and only 2 of them were lucky hits. And it's the second start in 3 where he's just been awful. And he hadn't been that bad for the most part this year. And he had the start in the middle against the Yankees. It was very, very good. But maybe the best thing to do is just to back him off, give him a breather. I don't believe you can get better from the bench, But I also believe that this is different than shutting him down. This is just saying, let's do one turn through. We'll take advantage of these 2 off days. They have an off day Thursday. They have an off day Monday. So they can stay in the rest of their rotation and skip Ricky. And what this comes down to is they're skipping their 5th starter because that's what he's become. He's been their worst starting pitcher this year.
Yeah, no question about it. And Jay Happ has been nothing like a 5th starter. In his last 4 or 5 starts, he's been very good and racking up the strikeouts as well. We got a chance to catch up with Jay. Here's that conversation. Here with Jay Happ. And Jay, you've had some great success since being inserted into the starting rotation for the Blue Jays. Obviously, starting out of the bullpen wasn't a place that you wanted to be, but now you are back on the mound in a starter's role. And how have you readjusted to that role in the American League East as well?
Well, I'm definitely glad to get back in the rotation and get back in the comfort zone I'm used to. But, whatever my role is, I was going to try to help the team. But, it's nice to be back in the starter's role and, get back to doing what I do.
Jay, I got to talk about the number of strikeouts you've put up as a starter, and you really tend to rack them up quite a bit. And you're not a guy that throws in the high 90s either. You're mid to low 90s guy, but you're able to strike guys out with the high fastball. You don't see that very much in the major leagues, guys, without the high 90s stuff thrown up in the zone and throwing it past batters. How are you able to do that?
I don't look too much into it. I try to keep guys off balance, as all pitchers do, and when I do that, sometimes I can get a strikeout here or there, but just trying to mix all my pitches in and keep them off balance, and fortunately so far I've been able to do that.
In watching you work and getting used to the kind of pitcher you are, it's interesting because talking about the strikeouts and talking about the way you do things, you work kind of vertically in the strike zone. And we don't see a lot of guys do that. It seems like, and we're used to Brett Cecil and Aaron Laffey and those kind of lefties who kind of work in and out and try to pick their spots on the corners. You can work up and down successfully, and it seems really interesting to us.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to go in and out also, as well as up and down. You try to give them all 4 quadrants if you can and try to change their eye level a little bit, and just trying to be aggressive in the strike zone.
What's the difference between the Jay Happ who pitched for the Phillies as a rookie, the couple years in Houston, and the guy we've seen here throw 5 out of 6 incredible starts?
Hopefully not too much. Confidence goes a long way in this game. Like I said, earlier, just when I'm aggressive, usually better things happen than not. So that's my main focus going out there, is being aggressive in the zone.
Jay, a lot of people like to make a big deal about changing leagues, going from the National League to the American League, the DH, not having to face the pitcher once every 9 batters. But, you've made the transition and your numbers are much better in the American League as a starter. Do people make too much of a big deal about that, switching leagues?
There's definitely a difference. There's deeper lineups without the pitcher in there. But to be honest, you try not to think about it too much. You go out there and you focus on the guy in the batter's box, and you go on to the next one. Hopefully, once that guy's done. So, try not to think about it. Sometimes it can be more of a mental thing. But the lineups, it's. I think people talk about that for a reason. They are deeper.
I can't think of your hitting stats off the top of my head, but do you miss stepping into the batter's box? I'm imagining you don't.
I didn't mind it. I like that part of the game. But it's nice too to kind of get in the dugout and just focus on the next guy you're going up against. So either way, I like playing baseball. So whatever way it happens.
And you weren't going to hit next year if you stay with Houston anyway. So you got that. I got to ask you. You came here as part of an emergency airlift trade where the Blue Jays just were so desperate for major league pitching, and you came and Brandon Lyon came and really helped out and stabilized things. You haven't seen the real Blue Jays since you got here. Everyone's been dropping like flies. Guys are slowly coming back. And you lived through the 9-19 August, and we're sitting here in September where the Jays have been outscored 30-8 in 4 games and they're 0-4. How excited are you about seeing some of the guys come back and getting to spring training next year and seeing what this team was before you got here?
I'm real excited. I've heard a lot of great things. I've seen great things. Being on another team, you still notice what's going on around the league. So you know what the team is capable of doing. At the same time, we still have a whole month to go. So we're going to try to finish strong and see what we got going here.
Is there an incentive in there your game back of the Red Sox right now. To not is it important to not finish in last place? Does that make a difference? If you're out, you're out. But is it important?
It's never good to finish last. I think from what I've seen is good teams go out to win that day. So you go out and focus on that day, and if it doesn't happen, you come to the park the next day to win that game. So you take them one at a time, as cliche as it sounds, and hopefully we're in better standings once this thing's done.
Before we let you go, we got to ask about being in the American League East, and you get to play the Yankees, you get to play the Red Sox, and obviously the Red Sox have had a down year this year, but you get to go into those ballparks and compete. Obviously, we're not talking about the old Yankee Stadium anymore, but it's still a big stage and a lot of media and a lot of attention, and Fenway Park, so much history in that ballpark. Not to say that the National League Central didn't have its share of exciting ballparks to play in, but the history. How do you feel about being in this division and playing against some of the big boys in Major League Baseball?
Well, you're right. It's sometimes it can seem like just a little bigger stage. There's a lot of media and a lot of tradition, especially in this league, and obviously tough teams. So it's a battle, and it's fun to come to the park because you really got to get after it. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble. So it's been fun so far.
Yeah, and it's been fun watching you as well, Jay. Thanks a lot for this.
You got it. Thank you, guys.
There you go, Jay Happ. Oh, man, we forgot to ask him why he goes by Jay and not J.A.
I asked him that, and he didn't really have an answer. He said, when I asked him why he pronounces it Jay, when I talked to him on the radio, he said, well, it's James Anthony. It's like, well, that's not why you say it. And he goes, I just go by Jay. So one wonders why he wouldn't just shorten the James to J-J-A-Y, and then there would be no confusion, but he doesn't.
Yeah, it's spelled, it's still, that's the confusing part because it's still J-A when you look at the media, whatever. It's not important. What is important is that you vote for Tom Cheek for the Ford C. Frick Award. Tell the people how they can do that, Michael.
I will tell the people, and I will do it now, if you don't mind.
I don't, and in fact, I encourage it.
All right, well, here's the deal. If you're watching this on September 8th or 9th, you cannot vote today, because September 7th at 5 p.m. Eastern is when the first round of balloting comes to a close. And that's cutting down the list of 222, which is everyone who's worked 10 years or more in a broadcast, to 40. And then on September 7th, they cut that list to 40. On September 10th, they start the voting that will knock the 40 down to 3. And that's the key part. I'm confident we'll get Tom into the top 40. But if you're watching this before September 7th at 5 o'clock, still go to facebook.com/baseballhall, like the page, click on the 13 Frick voting, and go vote for Tom Cheek. His name is on the second page. After September 10th, it is even more imperative that you do this, and you do it once a day, and you do it every day. If you don't have Facebook, there is a chance that you won't need it for the second round of voting, that you'll be able to vote through the Baseball Hall of Fame's website, which is baseballhall.org. As Jeff Mathis throws wild on a double play turn here in batting practice that we almost had a shot at. So you might be able to do that if you don't have Facebook. Check it out, and I'll certainly be publicizing that over the course of the weekend and before September 10th starts. So make sure you check out my blog at sportsnet.ca in the MLB section, and you'll get all the information about the second round of voting. But we need to keep this going, because the more Tom Cheek is in the consciousness of the voters, the likelier it is that they finally give him this award that he's deserved for so long, and that we won't have to do this again next year, because I really don't want to have to do this again next year.
No, me neither, but certainly do it this year. You can also follow Mike Wilner on Twitter at Wilnerness590, which you already do, and you can follow me on Twitter at BennisSnet. Do all those things. Vote for Tom Cheek. Check out our audio podcast on sportsnet590.ca as well, Blue Jays This Week. It's also on iTunes, and you can subscribe to this video podcast on iTunes as well. This has been In the Zone, presented by TD. He's Mike Wilner. I'm Ben Ennis. See you later.